and have got great ambition. And when they approach the Museum of Liverpool, we sort of feel a bit like that ourselves, but we're completely inexperienced about how to put on concerts. I just want to tell you about how this thing evolved, and you get a sense really of the creativity of OMD through that. We tell stories in the Museum of Liverpool, and the Museum of Liverpool is essentially the biography of a city. I just want to tell a very short story. In 1919, Edward Wordsworth created a painting called Dazzle Ship in the dry dock of Liverpool. And that inspired Peter Saville, who, as we know, is the artistic director of OMD. And that encouraged OMD themselves to write this album, Dazzle Ships. You move forward 30 years, and we've got our cultural partners and friends from Liverpool Biennial, take Liverpool 14, 18 now, who worked with Carlos Cruz Diaz to create the Dazzle Ship using our ship, the Edmund Gardner, in the Maritime Museum. That immediately started something thinking in OMD, and they approached the museum saying, we'd like to do something around this. Initially it was going to be just to create a piece in the engine room of the Edmund Gardner, now the Dazzle Ship, and their ambitions just continue to grow. And again, way back to all those years ago, that influence, those ambitions, that innovation was there all the way through, and it grew into this concert here tonight. In addition, we've also had a display case of OMD material, and we've also had a mini program of Dazzle Ship films curated by Andy McCluskey. It just gives you a sense of how all that's worked. So there's a lot of people to thank that made it happen tonight. We have a trading team who are hugely experienced, but were completely in the dark, and they collaborated with Andy's team and Paul's team. When they first decided they were going to do this concert, I thought we might see them once or twice, in the next 3 to 4 months. But Andy and Paul and Martin have been in touch regularly. In fact, we speak to Andy and Paul most days. Their hands have been right on every decision that's been made for this concert, and it's just a huge achievement on their part to allow us to present the exhibitions, the concert and the films the way we have. We'd also like to thank OMD's team. Initially when they came, we thought, oh gosh, I hope they're not going to be like these power managers like Peter Grant from Led Zeppelin and so on. Nothing could be further from the truth. Their guidance was absolutely critical, very sensitive, and they assured us all the way through. And we'd particularly like to thank Simon Fuller. We'd like to thank Andy Liddell for the amazing lighting design of tonight's show. I met Andy about 3 months ago, and Andy McCluskey introduced me to Andy Liddell, and this little man disappeared and was straight around the museum working out all the angles for this particular show. They were hugely inspired by the space, and that's the whole thing was driven. This whole idea has been to create something special. We'd also like to thank Chicky and Kenny from the sound team. I would also like to thank our trading team who've worked tirelessly on this. Many days on this, there were a few frazzle, but Melanie Lewis and her team ensured that it was mainly Dazzle, and they've just driven this thing forward and hopefully created something special that everybody will remember. But our top thanks and our superb thanks go to Andy McCluskey and Paul Humphreys, who are going to come on stage now and answer some of your questions. Please welcome Andy and Paul. Yes.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Don't mind me if I go to sleep then.
I'll keep poking him to wake him up.
When we spoke 4 months ago, it was just an idea. How do you feel now that it's finally happened? How do you feel it all went?
When you do something like this, it's terrifying. You just keep having ideas, and the museum kept saying, well, yeah, okay, maybe. Yeah, we'll try and make that happen. And then I kept going back to Paul and Martin, and they went, really? Okay, yeah. It's been great. I mean, when we stand on stage and play, it's a blur, quite frankly. We are so, because we are completely out of our comfort zone, aren't we, Paul?
Totally, yeah.
Tonight, you know, we were doing things that we've never done before, that we haven't done for years, in a place that's not used to doing gigs.
Without our drummer.
We're without our drummer, which was strange as well.
Yeah.
So, I sound underwhelmed if I say I'm just relieved, but I just am relieved that we pulled it off. Come on, Mark.
Sometimes with these, you know, slightly smaller gigs, more intimate gigs, they create far more nerves for us than playing to a 20,000 seat arena. Just because you can see everybody's face in the audience, and it's slightly terrifying. We just kind of go into another zone and just make sure we play the songs right.
Excellent. Well, we've got a set of questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
We think we should start them really because we've only got half an hour.
Sure.
Our first question is from Tom Jones. Very good. We've also asked people their favourite OMD moment, and his is playing Dazzle Ships in my bedroom to my girlfriend. I hope he was going to finish by saying, readers, I married her, but he didn't. But the question is, have your views towards Dazzle Ships, the album, changed over the years? From making it to the initial lukewarm reception, and now it's classic status?
That's one for Paul.
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, when we made it for all the right reasons. I mean, we'd done Architecture Morality, it had sold millions and millions of copies, and we just didn't want to repeat Architecture Morality and just keep doing the same kind of thing. So we thought we'd try something different, and we did try something very different. And I mean, Architecture Morality sold millions and millions, and Dazzle Ships sold about 300,000. So we kind of lost 90% of our audience with Dazzle Ships. So commercially, it was a disaster, but I think musically it was a big success, and I think time has shown that. I mean, we re-released it a few years back. I mean, it got absolutely murdered in the press in 1983, and it got 5-star reviews when we re-released it a few years ago. And
It wasn't overly popular with some of the band members at the time, I recall.
I think the fact that it nearly killed our career was the reason why.
It has been a strange journey, hasn't it, that album? But I mean, today, you know, I mean, this is incredible, really, because, you know, when the ship was painted and we asked if we could put some music in it, and I hope you've had a chance to go in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's been a wonderful opportunity to do all these things, but the museum is not used to doing, as you know, Paul is not used to doing gigs, not used to putting music concrete in a ship. And I begged them to turn off all the lights in that ship, and they just wouldn't.
Health and safety.
But isn't it incredible that, you know, that 31 years after we did an album that everybody thought was going to kill our career, here we are celebrating it, you know, and I have to say that the look on everybody's faces when they realised we were playing for Noi, an international, was wonderful. That was the highlight for me of the night.
For me too, seeing everyone's faces on stage.
And the relief of hitting the high note in international.
I was totally proud of you. You got a round of applause for that.
Now was it international, you can do Telugu.
I recognise that voice.
Beware of Greeks complaining.
Okay, our next question is from Paula Bailey. Paula, are you here tonight?
Yeah.
Hello, Paula.
Paula's favourite OMD moment is being in an audience of 4 for Absolute Radio. And her question is, and it is about achievements, is about what is your proudest achievement in your OMD career so far?
Wow, that's tricky. I mean, because there have been some wonderful moments of being in OMD. I mean, it's usually kind of the first time we did anything, really. It was like the first Top of the Pops we did, first time we played, you know, the Liverpool Empire was fantastic. First time we went to America and did concerts, so it's really our first. So it's kind of hard to put my finger on one thing.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is you hang around long enough and you get to sort of re-celebrate your firsts again, actually. So,
that's true.
like, tonight has been quite exciting to go back and dip into some of the old songs. But I think I echo what Paul says, you know, you just can't recreate the firsts again. But, you know, doing History of Modern and English Electric and being able to tour again a few years ago and have such wonderful response, that was incredible, because I never thought that we would still be doing this at our age.
No.
So, but probably if somebody asked me to pick one moment, it would be holding the factory copy of Electricity in my hand and saying, wow, we made a record.
I echo that. It was an amazing feeling. Because those original factory records that we did, we did 5,000, printed 5,000 with those amazing sleeves. And Andy and I hand-bagged every one of those. We just sat there for hours taking the record and putting it in the sleeve. And we were there all day, weren't we, from morning till night.
And
So
one of those
amazing
records is
feeling.
in our display. It's hand selected by Andy again. He put it in our display for us.
I noticed actually it's been in a plastic wrapper for a while and the thermographic print has got compressed actually. I'm like, oh dear, it's lost its value.
You're going to stick it on eBay?
No, I'm not going to stick it on eBay now.
Talking about those early days and the appearance of Winston.
Yes.
A wonderful reel-to-reel takedown.
By the way, the man who had the idea of getting Winston out of the glass cabinet was Paul Gallagher. It's Paul's idea that we got Winston back on stage.
But, you know, the amazing thing was, he worked when we took him out. He hadn't been, switched on for years.
Part of the wonderful journey that we've been on is some of the layers of the hidden history of OMD being coming forward to people like Paul Colliston, who may be here tonight. It was lovely to meet him. And Paul actually worked on Winston to get it working again. He's an engineer, isn't he?
Yeah.
I've got a question. There's nobody actually asked the question about Winston. Who is he? Is he Ringo? Is he George? Is he Pete Best? Who's Winston?
Well, we used to joke with people that if the Beatles had, you know, been born 20 years later, they would have had a tape recorder and they wouldn't have had Ringo and George. So, but I mean, Winston is named after Winston Smith from 1984. That's where the name Winston comes from. And the reality is, I mean, it's amazing that, you know, we're doing this with Winston. It's amazing that Paul Collister is here, probably watching us for the first time in almost 30 years. And I really do thank Paul for the effort he put into helping us and servicing Winston, because we really, really thought that we would have to fake it. But Winston did play music that you heard, because Paul put the effort into getting him service. So
Willie was in performance.
Yeah.
Definitely tonight.
Well, thank you so much, because I think Winston was just a brilliant start to the whole show.
Yeah, great idea, Paul, thanks. Can you imagine, I have spent the last 3 months sending emails to Pauls. This Paul, that Paul, Paul Collister, Paul the film man. Every Paul in the world.
They inadvertently sent me the set list. Oh my God!
He's supposed to be
Comments
sending
on
it
the
to me.
set list. Our next question is from Marcel Dolman. Marcel? He's not here at the minute, but there he is. Hello, Marcel. Your question is a real philosophical one. Looking back, what would you have done differently when it comes to your music career?
Got a better lawyer when we signed to Virgin. We weren't signed on the best deal. Yeah.
That's a
It
familiar
definitely
tale for a lot
wasn't the
of
best
musicians, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we spent our entire career fighting this contract that we couldn't get out of. So I guess if I have one, I don't really have any regrets. I mean, certainly no musical regrets or career regrets, but certainly, you know, we see a lot of bands who didn't sign the agreement that we signed, and it was we battled, not because we wanted to be rich, but because it kind of got in the way of our art in a way, because we were having to tour all the time, and we had this contract where we had to make an album a year, and sometimes we were completely exhausted because we were touring for 9 months and had 3 months to make the next record. So it was a difficult contract to deal with over sort of.
So you were
15
hugely
years.
prolific because of the commercial pressures that were put on.
Well, prolific in terms of, we cranked out songs that sometimes in hindsight, they were the best we could do at the time, but had we been allowed to have more time, we think we could have done better. I mean, I think, Paul made this point some time ago, and I'd never really thought about it, but I completely agree with him, that actually the deal that we signed really affected our musical output, because we made so little money. And Paul said it wasn't that we wanted loads of money, it was just that we had accountants and managers saying to us, "You're skint, you need to make another record yesterday or you can't carry on." And so there were times when we forced ourselves to make records when, quite frankly, we didn't have sufficient ideas. And there are, as I'm sure you've heard us say, there are things that we look back on that we wish we'd given ourselves more time, and we just didn't because of the commercial pressures. It's not because we were trying to sell more records in America or sell out or make more money. We were just, like you all do, we're just having to pay the bills, and we were pushing ourselves too hard for creativity sometimes. Yeah.